Hey guys, King of Charmanders here, and today I bring to you the best monster tier list for the Vernal Invader. So this video analyzes the easiest to hardest monsters in Monster Hunter Now as of the Vernal Invader update. There are currently 23 large monsters in the game right now. That's quite a lot, so I'm going to keep this short. However, we will exclude Bariath from this tier list as it was only recently re-released as a Hunt-a-thon exclusive monster. So you can only find Bariath in hats right now, so we're going to take it out, and it's not even in rotation right now, so there's no point in looking at it. Or rather, if you want to look at it, there's no point because you're just roasting it in a group unless you're trying to challenge yourself and you're trying to solo it in hats, which most of you probably aren't doing. First, we're going to start off with the D tier, and we have, of course, our best friend, the Great Jagras. This is literally the first large monster you face in the game. It has been disrespected and probably the screams of many Great Jagras across the entire world as you've caused its mass genocide. It is encounterable in all 3 biomes, and is literally the easiest, arguably the easiest monster in the game, because it is extremely slow and predictable moveset. It also has one of the largest weak spots in the game, its stomach. It's huge. So, if you target its stomach, that huge stomach, you're going to deal a lot of damage. And the only real difficult thing about this monster is breaking its forelegs if you're a ranged weapon user. If you're trying to hunt for that wyvern gem shards and you're trying to go after its legs, it's kind of annoying because you have to be all up on its leg, but you know what? That's pretty much the only annoying thing about the Great Jagras. Next up in the D tier, we have Kulu-Ya-Ku. Small chicken butt, I mean head. A relatively small monster in comparison to others is why I call it this. So in comparison to all the other 2-legged, 2-standing monsters in the game, Kulu-Ya-Ku is a small boy. And it's somewhat fast, but has a predictable moveset. So it's a little quick, but relatively easy to dodge, as it is predictable. Despite the fact that somehow this thing digs a rock from underground anywhere, it's still relatively weak. So it can dig up its legendary rock shield, which is the most annoying thing about Kulu, but other than that, it's laughable before it headshots you with its boulder. It's gonna chuck that thing at you at 1,000,000 miles per hour, and if you could dodge a wrench, you can dodge a boulder. Not really, don't try to dodge a boulder, that thing's dangerous. Get out the way, don't do it, don't try it, and just get out of the way. On to the next one, and we have Bariath. It can't do push-ups, but it is a big boy. Along with that, its pretty dang slow and predictable moveset lands it in the D tier. However, it does have the mud armor, and it's the most annoying thing about this monster, because when you try to attack it, while it has that mud armor and you didn't break those parts, guess what? It's going to reduce your damage. And that's the hardest part about it. Breaking its mud armor if you aren't trying to light it on fire, as Bariath is weak to fire. If you're not hitting it with fire, you have to break its parts, and after you break its parts, you can deal more damage. Overall, outside of that, like I mentioned, slow, predictable, big, can't do push-ups. It definitely belongs in the D tier of Monster Hunter Now. But what's better than Mud Boy? 2 Mud Boys! As next to Bariath, we have Gyratotis on the D tier. It's a fish with legs. What is there to respect? You know, I like fish. Fish tastes actually pretty dang good when you cook it and you fry it, but I would not want to eat this thing because it is slow and predictable, and again, it has 2 legs. It's mutated. Why would I want to eat this thing? It can also go underground, which makes it pretty dang annoying as well to encounter. However, it has one of the lowest HP monsters in the entire Monster Hunter Now roster. One of the lowest HPs makes it belong in the D tier. Also, it has mud armor, but all you have to do to get around that is targeting its head. As you see, Gyratotis, its weak spot is its head. So if you aim for the dome, you're going to send it home to the Shadow Realm. Well, no, it's home. Well, no. Actually, it is the Shadow Realm because Gyratotis does have quite a bit of armor that is relevant to a lot of builds. But yes, target its head and it is dead. But hold on, there is one more in the D tier, and that is the Vernal Invader's CC-Yaku. This is what Kulu-Ya-Ku would look like when it pays its electric bill. No, seriously, they both are of the... They look exactly the same. This thing just looks like the really pissed off thing. If you watch the original Jurassic Park, yeah, it's this thing. It's somewhat fast, but also a predictable moveset like Kulu-Ya-Ku. And the thing about it is, CC-Yaku is really unique because the easiest park break target in the entire game. Because you know why? You don't have to target multiple parts. All you have to do is target its head because its head breaks twice. Which is why a lot of you are going after it for Wyvern Gem Shards. Because, you know, all you have to do is just break its head twice. However, initiate the Solo Flare. If you know what that anime is from, you know, and it's really cool because its flash attack can blind you for a few moments, but it's nothing when you get good at dodging it. So this is why Sisiaku doesn't belong in C tier. Once you get good practice, you can dodge it, you can also parry it, you can also guard against it. So because you can guard against that attack, it's not super threatening and it doesn't merit it to go anywhere else but the D tier. And now that bumps us up to the C tier where we have Bambaro. Bambaro, when you work together, it's much better. But this is what happens when Rudolph and T-Rex have a baby. So if you are working together with someone, this thing's gonna crush you pretty hard. It's relatively slow but has an annoying moveset because it can chuck entire boulders at you. However, despite that, it has the lowest HP so far in the entire Monster Hunter Now roster. Some of you were like, bro, this does not belong in B tier, and I agree, it does belong in C. Now that I've gotten a lot more practice with it, this thing is actually really easy to kill. Well, if you are able to overgrade your weapons and armor, because otherwise, if you can't kill it, it has the annoying tree bulldoze attack. But you can usually kill it before it gets a chance to use it. Now, if you can't do that, it's gonna kind of suck for you. But yes, target its horns, break its horns, don't let it use the tree bulldoze attack, and you will have a wonderful time. Moving on, we have next on the C tier, Tobi Kadachi. This is the flying electric squirrel thingy. Should be in D, but the thing is, it doesn't belong in D because it moves fast. However, its moveset is generally easy to dodge. It's actually pretty dang annoying though, because you might find yourself chasing after it a lot. And it has lower HP than Great Jagras and Kuluyaku, but like I mentioned, that fast movement, running all over the battlefield, is what merits it into the C tier. Because Tobi Kadachi's quickness and movement is what makes it so annoying. But its tail is a large weak spot. So if you target the tail, that's awesome. However, it also has a variety of tail attacks, and it can flip, dodge, fly in the air like a gymnastics flying squirrel thingy, electric squirrel thingy, and that's what makes it so annoying. But yes, Tobi Kadachi, with that being in mind, belongs in the C tier. Next on the C tier, we have Puke Puke. It is a walking biohazard, as it is the first poison element monster you fight in Monster Hunter Now. However, it moves pretty slowly, and it's easy to dodge. Its moveset though is pretty diverse with multiple close range attacks and long range attacks. And the most annoying thing about Puke Puke is that if you get caught in its poison attacks or you're stepping on the poison pool that it causes on the ground after firing that poison long range attack, it will cause passive damage to you because you will be poisoned. And it definitely belongs in the C tier alone just because its poison ability. The thing is, even if you ult, even if you do fire your special skill, guess what? That poison doesn't go away. So that's why it belongs in C, despite of how easy it is otherwise. Previously in the B tier, moving down to C tier is the Great Gyros. It's still the sad, lonely paralysis monster in the game, so it's still very lonely, as there is no other paralysis monster in the game other than Great Gyros so far. It has a slow and predictable moveset, however, it can be punishing if you are hit with its paralysis attacks. Paralysis attacks, if you are hit with it, will cause this chain effect, and we're going to go by that later, but the reason why it's in C tier is because its head is a relatively easy to target weak spot. It doesn't move around frequently too much other than this charging attack, so you could target the head and just bop its head to death. However, the reason why it's an up from D is that getting caught by its paralysis attacks can cause you to get attacked multiple times in a row without you being able to do anything about it. That's because paralysis will stun you, and because of that, you're going to be left on the floor. Depending on what attack Great Gyros decides to use next, you won't be outside of paralysis and it can keep attacking you. What's even worse is if it's another paralysis attack, guess what? You're going to go through this carnival loop of getting hit by paralysis attacks until it stops or misses. So it belongs in the C tier. And last but not least, on the C tier, we have Pau, the Paolumu. However, I have a really good question. How the heck was this thing the 103rd most popular monster? I don't get it. Like, I mean, it's cute, it's fluffy, but at the same time, it looks like a bat out of hell because it is based off a bat, but that's past the point. Anyways, it has a slow and predictable moveset. However, it can fire tornadoes out of its mouth. It will fire this wind attack out of its mouth, and then tornadoes will rise from the ground. So, the thing about it is, the reason why Palumu's in the C tier is because it does have, its head is the weak spot, and you can just bop on its head. But ranged weapon users have a huge weak spot window, with its wings and its neck pouch being the weak spots. So its windows are just gigantic, outside of bopping its head. Honestly, the only thing hard about Palumu is its ability to fly. Other than that, it's not really that hard to take down. Moving up on the B tier, we have Anjanath. It's a T-Rex that breathes fire, and that's actually pretty cool, so there will be no Anjanath slander on my part. It is one of the largest monsters on 2 legs. Slow and predictable moveset, but its attacks have a decent amount of range. No, seriously, this thing will stomp the ground, and it will stomp, well, not stomp the yard, it will stomp whatever's in the ground on it, and it will jump towards you. It will literally tries to jump and crush you underneath its legs. And it's one of the few monsters that will counterattack you if you break a specific body part, which is the head. If you break the head, it will try to chomp at you again and punch back at you, which is actually pretty cool. And the hardest thing about Anjanath is actually trying to target its tail. If you're trying to get its tail, that's the hardest thing about it. Otherwise, break its legs, make it tip over, and then have a field day bonking it to the Shadow Realm. Well, if you're using the hammer. Otherwise, just kill it. On to the next one, and even though I said there was slander on the T-Rex, I will slander the next on the B tier, which is Rathian. The prom queen that everybody hates because you don't want to steal her eggs. Many of you, if you've played Monster Hunter 1, oh my gosh, I hated the egg mission specifically for Rathian. The queen, its moveset is relatively slow and easy to dodge, but it can cover a wide area. It is annoying. And it is slow, but the thing about it, it can also inflict poison to you if you are hit with the tip of its tail or its claws. Also has the ability to breathe fire and can shoot 3 fireballs at you in succession. If you are too close when it does this attack, you will take some damage. So, pretty big, although slow and easy to dodge, has a annoying moveset. So, Rathian, the queen of the next monster, is still relatively annoying, and because of that, she belongs in the B tier. And of course, when you have a prom queen, you have a prom king, which is Rathalos, the flagship monster of the Monster Hunter series of Monster Hunter 1, the prom king that's actually pretty popular. Fun fact, Rathalos was 21 in the 20th anniversary poll of the most popular monsters. So, take it to 20 years later, and Rathalos is still pretty dang popular. It is the king that shares a similar moveset to Rathian, but also flies a whole lot more, which makes it really annoying. It can also inflict poison to you if you're hit with the tip of its tail or one of its claws, which is actually just as annoying, if not more annoying, than Rathian, because it is essentially an upgrade from Rathian. Rathalos' most annoying trait is its flying attacks can kick up wind pressure and stun you. So if you're trying to chase after it, and you're a melee user, guess what? You can get stunned by that wind pressure, which is really annoying. Moving forward on the B tier, we have the Fulminations of the Frost, Radobaan. And it's only in the B tier because it's a Beyblade. I'm just kidding. It does belong in the B tier though because it has a large attack range and a wide variety of attacks. It can even put you to sleep. Radobaan is quite large, and its roar, when it roars, it slams its stuff on the ground, and its parts break apart and try to hit you for extra damage, which makes it even more annoying. So spikes will break out of its body and you can get hit by it. Despite its low HP, its armor makes it super annoying until you can break one of its parts, as it resists damage unless you're using blunt attacks to its head. So again, it's going to resist damage until you break said part, and then it will do super effective damage. But until then, you're going to have a great time. Unless it rolls, because Radobaan's rolling attack is large and it can combo. So it can roll once, and then right after it rolls once, it's going to roll again. And comboing, forcing you to dodge it twice unless it contemplates its life choices. For some odd reason, if it does the rolling attack, all of a sudden it will like stumble and like completely lose its composure. I don't know why, but it's absolutely hilarious. But yeah, all these reasons are why Radobaan is in the B tier. And for the final monster on the B tier, we have the Vernal Invaders Odogaron. It is Tobi-Kadachi on steroids, quite literally. Gives you the first couple of seconds to break its legs. Otherwise, you are going to end up like Mufasa. So, for the first few seconds, it will roll. It will do this little thing, and then it'll hop backwards, and then stalk you a little bit, and then it's going to absolutely shred you to pieces. It is one of the fastest and has one of the most unpredictable movesets in the game. It can even make you bleed, so this is the first monster to inflict bleed until Nier Gigante comes out, and a ranged weapon user's worst nightmare unless you're used to hunting it. Some of you might disagree that this is in B tier, but the fact of the matter is, if you're not overgraded, and if you're a ranged weapon user, this thing hates you, and you hate this thing as well. So, Odogaron definitely belongs in the B tier, especially considering its speed and its attack patterns. And now we rise up to the second of the last, before the best of the best. We have two monsters in the A tier. Well, they belong here, and you want to know why? Because the first of the A tier is Diablos. Quite literally, the devil. No, seriously, the definition of Diablos means devil. And I hate this thing. I hate it a lot. I hated it in Monster Hunter 1, I hated it in Monster Hunter 2, 3, and everywhere the heck I fought it, as it is one of the largest monsters in the game with a ridiculous range of attacks. In fact, this monster was so annoying, the developers actually had to nerf it because it would use its dig attack to burn the rest of the timer. Some of you probably experienced this, especially early on in the game when it was still really freaking strong. So again, it had to be nerfed. For this reason, definitely belongs in the A tier. And speaking of it, it has that super annoying dig attack that makes it invincible unless you can do enough damage to it early on. If you do enough damage to it while it's underground, Diablos will actually rise up and stun it for a little bit, and you can wail on it. But other than that, if you can't kill it quickly, Diablos is going to give you a really hard time. Next up, the other second monster in the A tier, we have Legiana. This is what I dream about when I light things on fire. In fact, many of you are probably lighting a lot of this on fire last week, because last week we had the Ice Element event, and you probably killed a bunch of Legiana for your weapons and armor, as well as those sweet Wyvern gem shards if you are 8-star monsters. However, if you are not overpowered, or even if you're dead even, it has a ridiculous hitbox for a lot of its attacks. It has the ability to fly and can ice you faster than you can use all of your first aid meds. If you are very in the beginning where nobody could help you out, you took on Legiana and you hated it. The funny thing is, if you poison Legiana, it can't fly or use its ice attacks. LOL. Laugh out loud because that's really what it is. But other than that, Legiana probably gave you a really hard time the first time you fought it, especially if you weren't overgraded. Other than Diablos and Rathalos, it's possibly the newer / beginners players' worst nightmare in Monster Hunter now. Because in order to get to Diablos and Rathalos, you must beat Legiana. And Legiana, in the beginning, I don't know for you, until I got used to it, was actually really hard. Speaking of really hard, we have the goats of the goats, the hardest of the hardest. The monsters that will piss you off the most and you probably were stuck at one point. Starting off, at the S tier, we have Pink Rothian. When Rothian eats too many pink paintballs and decides to shoot them all at you, you get Pink Rothian. This is a direct upgrade from Rothian, being more aggressive and with improved attacks, as it is a subspecies of Rathian that can fly more often and can be super annoying to chase after. In fact, it has the Super Thunder Railgun attack that it fires at you and leaves a burning pit of fire on the ground, so you want to be careful about that. In fact, some hunters have said this is one of the most annoying monsters they have faced in Monster Hunter now. Next up on the S tier, while you have the Queen, there is also the King. The Queen of the Rose, we have the King of the Azure Skies, Azure Rathalos. The King of the Sky falling on you and taking all of your first aid meds, quite literally, as it is a direct upgrade from Rathalos, being more aggressive and with improved attacks. It is a subspecies of Rathalos that uses its aerial movesets to absolutely piss you off and dominate the battlefield. And a large part of why it's even more annoying is that the wind pressure it kicks up is super annoying unless you have windproof. I know most of y'all aren't attacking or taking on this thing with windproof, but if you don't have it, that wind pressure can stun you and it can take a little bit of timer off of your hunt times, making Rathalos, Azure Rathalos, extremely annoying and belonging in the S tier. Next up, my personal favorite subspecies and one of my favorite monsters in the franchise. In the S tier, we have Black Diablos. The thing is, black is my favorite color. And the thing is, Black Diablos, I love its description because a more aggressive form of Diablos that turns black when it's in heat. which means this is what happens when your wife wants a baby. The definition of I hate this game. As Black Diablos is a direct upgrade from Diablos, being more aggressive and tries to run you over like you owe it some money. It can dig underground, and it runs a lot. And the big problem with a more aggressive Diablo subspecies is its attacks sweep a wide range of the battlefield. It also moves around so much you spend a lot of the battle chasing it. It's gonna duck, dive, dodge, and weave. Because of that, if you're a melee user, you're gonna start running after it. If you're a ranged user, you're going to try to run after it so you can get an optimal damage range. However, because of these traits, the Black Diablos has been argued as the hardest and most annoying monster in Monster Hunter Now thus far. However, we aren't done with the subspecies yet, as in the S tier we have Koropuke, the subspecies of the Vernal Invader. It is the Pressure Washer of Doom. A completely different version of Koropuke that uses the water element instead of poison. And it has the most annoying ranged attack moveset in the game so far. If you have fought this thing, if you have tried to make content for it and describe its attack pattern, it was incredibly painful, as it has the most dynamic attack in the game so far with its flying, ultimate pressure washer attack that is difficult to dodge unless you know its mechanics. Surprisingly, it only took me getting hit by it 2 or 3 times until I mastered it, but Koropuke is actually incredibly powerful. In fact, if you do it HP scaling wise, it is one of the monsters that has one of the most HP in the game, making it worthy of being in the S tier and in fact rivaling Black Diablos as far as difficulty. And now on to the second to the last monster in the S tier, and we have Devil Joe. If a pickle with teeth and shaped like a T-Rex was in a horror movie and it was trying to eat you, that's what a Devil Joe is. It is the largest monster on 2 legs in Monster Hunter Now. It is absolutely gigantic. Because of that, its attack range is an absolute nightmare with an enraged form that has a powerful breath attack. Now, this thing's actually pretty easy to dodge because all you have to do is roll under its belly, but if you are super far away, you ain't dodging that unless you perfect dodge it. Now, the thing about it is, Devil Joe takes 150% damage from Thunder and Dragon, as those are its weaknesses. It is also more susceptible to poison. However, its sheer size and moveset coverage merit it being an S tier monster. I know some of y'all are like, oh my gosh, what, Devil Joe, it's S tier? No, it's not. It's A tier because it takes all that damage from Elemental. But take into consideration, if you aren't overpowered or if you don't have your stuff built in an even star level with Devil Joe, it's gonna give you a hard time. And for good reason. It is the big final boss mob of the Vernal Invader. And last but not least on the S tier, we have another iconic final boss monster. You are probably killing a lot of them right now. It is the legendary, most popular monster in 20 years, still in 20 years actually, the #1, Zinogre. Big Thunder Wolf Smash. Quite literally, this is one of the biggest monsters in Monster Hunter Now. Its existence with the Hunt-a-thon HP boost made players rage because of its difficulty. Seriously, this thing was absolutely amazing, and it does have the most attacks in the entire Monster Hunter Now roster, and a charge form that actually amplifies its attacks and gives it more attacks. Thank you, Thunderbugs. For the longest time, 8-star Zinogre dominated solo players that did not have a high-grade ice or raw weapons till Hunt-a-thon matchmaking was released. In fact, players rejoiced that Hunt-a-thon matchmaking was released because 8-star Zinogre could finally be taken down in a group. However, then in came in the existence of 9-star Zinogre, where players were like, oh my gosh, this thing is insanely powerful, and then caused the entire, I want to see your hunter rank because I don't want to carry you low levels, etc. But that's how iconic Zinogre is. The big boss of Hunt-a-thons, the thing you are killing right now, and it has the most powerful thunder weapons in the game thus far. Alright y'all, this was actually a really long video, so I'm going to keep the closing short for this one. Hopefully you're looking forward to the next major update with more monsters releasing. We are getting more monsters, yay, as with every major update. But what do you think about the monsters that stand on this tier list? I'll be making another one for the next major update, but as for the Vernal Invader, let me know in the comments. With that being said, please do me a huge favor, like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. Good luck on your grinds as well as your drops, and I will see y'all on the next video.